The Galactic Council had made their decision, and there was no going back now for anyone involved in this matter at hand today, or ever again in the future of humanity and Earth itself, as a whole planet full of billions of people, who called it home for thousands of years before this moment arrived unexpectedly, without any warning signs whatsoever from anyone anywhere. In space or time itself, as far as anyone could tell from their observations and calculations made by scientists and researchers alike across all fields of study known to mankind at this point in history. Books written by historians who documented everything that happened during these dark times. Head for everyone involved directly or indirectly through various means available to them at any given moment throughout this entire ordeal that lasted longer than most people expected it, would last initially when it first started happening, gradually over time without anyone noticing, until it was too late to do anything about it anymore, since the damage had already been done completely beyond repair or redemption for all parties concerned about the future outcomes of their actions. Taken today against humanity as a species, living among stars, Commander Kate Morrison stood alone on the observation deck, watching the barrier form around their solar system. Like a cage made of pure energy that glowed with strange colors never seen before by human eyes until now, at this very moment in time, when everything changed forever for her people and their civilization, built over centuries of hard work and dedication to progress and advancement in all areas of technology and science, combined together to create something beautiful and wonderful for future generations to enjoy and appreciate fully without any reservations or doubts about their place among the stars, alongside other intelligent species from distant worlds far away from Earth. The Council representative spoke through the transmission one last time before cutting off all communication channels permanently with humanity and and Earth itself as punishment for crimes they believed humans committed against the natural order of things in the galaxy at large, according to their ancient laws and traditions passed down through countless generations of rulers and leaders who governed their respective civilizations for thousands upon thousands of years before humans even existed as a species, capable of space travel and exploration. Beyond their own planet and moon system, Kate turned away from the window and walked down the long corridor toward the special holding area, where something important waited for her arrival patiently, without making any sound or movement that could alert anyone else aboard the ship to its presence, hidden away from prying eyes and curious minds, who might ask too many questions about what it was and why it was there. In the first place, Adalshay reached the secure room and entered the access code into the panel beside the door, which opened slowly with a soft hissing sound that echoed through the empty hallway behind her as she stepped inside and approached the large stasis pod sitting in the center of the chamber, surrounded by monitoring equipment and life support systems, keeping its occupant alive and healthy during the long sleep that had lasted far longer than anyone originally planned when they first decided to use this technology for preservation purposes. Inside the pod lay an elf woman with silver hair that seemed to glow with its own inner light, even while she remained unconscious and unaware of the world around her changing rapidly with each passing moment, bringing new challenges and opportunities for those brave enough to seize them when the time came to act decisively and boldly, without fear or hesitation holding them back from achieving their goals and dreams for a better tomorrow. Kate placed her hand on the pod surface and spoke quietly to the sleeping figure within, telling her about everything that had happened recently with the Council and their decision to banish humanity from the galactic community forever, unless they agreed to accept punishment and restrictions on their freedom to explore and expand across the stars, as they had been doing successfully for hundreds of years already, without causing any real harm to anyone or anything important in the grand scheme of things happening all around them. Constantly, the elf woman named Lyra had saved human colonists long ago when they were attacked by raiders in deep space, far from any help or rescue coming from Earth or other settlements scattered across nearby star systems that were just beginning to develop into thriving communities full of hope and potential for growth and prosperity in the coming decades. Ahead of them all now, it was time to wake her from stasis and ask for her help in return for the kindness humans had shown her 3,000 years earlier, when she needed assistance desperately, and they provided it without asking for anything back from her, or expecting any reward or compensation for their actions taken purely out of compassion and empathy for another living being in distress and danger. Kate initiated the awakening sequence and stepped back to wait for the process to complete itself automatically according to the programmed instructions built into the system by engineers who designed it specifically for this purpose. Many years ago, when they first encountered alien species capable of extended hibernation periods lasting centuries or even millennia, depending on their biology and physiology unique to their particular race or culture, the pod began to drain the preservation fluid slowly while warming up the interior temperature gradually to avoid shocking the body too suddenly with rapid changes that could cause serious damage or complications during the revival process that required careful monitoring and adjustment. Throughout the entire procedure from start to finish without any mistakes or errors occurring along the way, Lyra opened her eyes and breathed deeply for the first time in 3,000 years. Lyra sat up slowly in the medical bay while Kate and several other crew members watched her carefully to make sure she was recovering properly from the long stasis period that had kept her frozen in time for longer than most civilizations existed. In the known galaxy, according to historical records maintained by various species throughout their interactions with each other over countless millennia of trade and cultural exchange between worlds, the elf looked around the room with eyes that seemed to change color depending on the angle of light hitting them from different sources. Positioned throughout the chamber for examination purposes and general illumination. During medical procedures and checkups performed regularly on crew members aboard the ship, Kate stepped forward and offered her hand to help Lyra stand up from the examination table where she had been resting since waking up from stasis just moments earlier, with confusion written across her beautiful face that showed signs of age despite her species. Natural longevity and resistance to the effects of time passing normally for other beings in the universe. Lyra accepted the gesture and rose to her feet with grace that reminded everyone present of dancers performing on stage for audiences who appreciated art and beauty in all its forms, regardless of origin or cultural background, influencing the style and presentation of the performance itself. She asked how long she had been asleep, and Kate told her the exact number of years that had passed since humans first placed her in stasis for safekeeping during a dangerous period, when enemies were hunting her across multiple star systems, trying to capture or eliminate her for reasons that remained unclear even to this day, despite investigations conducted by human intelligence agencies working to uncover the truth. Lyra listened carefully to the explanation about the Galactic Council and their decision to banish humanity from the stars as punishment for alleged crimes against the established order, maintained by ancient species who believed they had the right to judge younger races and determine their worthiness to participate in galactic affairs and commerce between civilizations. Elf smiled slightly when Kate finished speaking and said something that made the human commander realize she had made the right choice in waking this ancient being from her long sleep in stasis, waiting for the proper moment to arrive when her unique skills and knowledge would be needed most by those who had shown her kindness without expecting anything in return from her. Lyra told Kate that she would help humanity fight back against the Council and their unjust decision to isolate Earth from the rest of the galaxy because she remembered the debt she owed to humans for saving her life, when no one else cared enough to intervene on her behalf during those dark times long ago. The ship began to shake and vibrate as something massive stirred in the cargo hold below them, where special containment fields had been installed to hold a creature that existed partially outside normal reality in dimensions humans could barely comprehend or measure with their current technology. An understanding of physics, Kate realized what was happening and felt a mix of excitement and fear, knowing that Lyra had brought something with her into stasis that no one expected or prepared for properly when they first designed the storage systems aboard this vessel. Lyra walked toward the exit with Kate following close behind as they made their way down to the cargo bay, where the containment fields were beginning to fail under the pressure of something pushing against them from inside, trying to break free after being confined for 3,000 years without movement or freedom to fly through space as nature intended for beings of its kind. Teed entered the massive cargo area and saw the fields flickering like lights, about to burn out completely from overload as a shape began to materialize within the energy barriers, trying desperately to hold it in place. dragon called Ashenwing emerged slowly from the containment area with scales that reflected no light, at all making it appear as a living shadow given form and substance in three-dimensional space where it could interact with physical matter and energy. Normally, the creature was enormous beyond anything Kate had ever seen before in her career serving aboard various ships throughout human-controlled space during peacetime and wartime operations against pirates and hostile alien forces. Threatening colonies and trade route, Ashenwing looked at Lyra with eyes that burned like stars being born in distant nebulae, and made a sound that resonated through the hull plating, making everyone present feel it in their bones and teeth, vibrating at frequencies that should not be possible for organic beings to produce naturally. Lyra reached out and touched the dragon gently on its massive head and spoke to it in a language that predated most known civilizations currently active in the galaxy today. The Galactic Council received a transmission 3 days after they completed the barrier around the human solar system, and the message contained only one image showing Lyra sitting calmly on the hull of a human warship with her dragon companion, visible in the background, looking directly at the camera with those burning eyes that seemed to see through matter itself into the souls of those viewing. The recording council members across dozens of worlds called emergency meetings to discuss what this meant for their plans and the future of their authority over the younger species they controlled through fear and regulations enforced by military fleets stationed throughout strategic locations across known space. The ancient elven kingdoms that had withdrawn from galactic politics thousands of years ago sent a brief statement saying they did not claim Lyra as one of their own anymore, and whatever happened next, it's not their responsibility or concern because she had chosen her own path long before any current council members were even born into their respective positions of power. Ambassador Krell, from the crystal world of Velthera, found himself facing angry questions from his government about why he had assured them that Elf was dead and no longer a threat to anyone or anything in the galaxy at large. He tried to explain that historical records clearly stated her ship was destroyed during a battle centuries ago, but his superiors did not accept this excuse and demanded better intelligence-gathering methods be implemented immediately to avoid similar mistakes in the future. Meanwhile, Kate Morrison worked with Lyra aboard the human command station orbiting Earth, where military officers studied new techniques and strategies. The elf shared with them freely about combat in space, using principles humans had never considered before in all their years of warfare against various enemies. Lyra examined human weapons and ship designs with great interest and made suggestions that caused engineers to redesign entire systems based on her knowledge of physics that operated on different levels than what human scientists understood from their education and research conducted over the past several centuries. She told them about traveling through void space where normal rules did not apply and distances could be crossed in moments rather than months, using conventional faster-than-light drives that all spacefaring species relied upon for interstellar travel. And Commerce Admiral Lisa Hayes asked about the cost of learning these secrets, and Lyra explained honestly that once humans started using void navigation, there would be no turning back, because the Council would see them as an even greater threat than before and would attempt to destroy humanity completely rather than risk allowing such dangerous knowledge to spread to other younger races under their control. Kate looked at Lisa, and they both understood what this meant for their people and the future of Earth among the stars, but neither woman hesitated to accept the terms, because humanity had already been judged and condemned by beings who refused to see them as equals worthy of respect and consideration. Lyra smiled when they agreed and said she would begin teaching human pilots immediately how to perceive the cracks in reality where void space touched normal space, allowing ships to slip between dimensions and emerge light years away from their starting point in mere hours instead of weeks or months. Outside the station, Ashenwing wrapped itself around one of the largest human battleships, causing the crew to panic initially until they realized the dragon was not attacking, but rather protecting the vessel with its own body and extending some kind of field that made their ship invisible to scanning equipment used by other species to detect vessels moving through space. Captain Sophie Blake commanded that particular ship, and at first she protested having a creature of myth coiled around her hull like some kind of bizarre decoration, but after seeing the tactical advantages it provided, she changed her mind quickly and accepted the arrangement as beneficial for upcoming operations against Council. For Cizan, the depths of space, far from any inhabited system's old powers that had slept for ages, began to wake up and take notice of what was happening with humanity and their new allies. Because change always attracted attention from beings that existed outside normal time and space, observing events unfold across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Council prepared their response by assembling a massive fleet, drawn from multiple member species to demonstrate their overwhelming military superiority and convince humans to surrender before any real fighting began that could result in casualties and destruction, neither side truly wanted. Despite the rhetoric and posturing happening through official channels, the first Council fleet vanished without warning while conducting routine patrol operations near the outer territories where they maintained observation posts monitoring traffic and trade between various systems under their jurisdiction and Authority 50. 3 ships simply disappeared from all sensor networks simultaneously, leaving no trace of debris or distress signals that would indicate what happened to them or where they might have gone during their final moments before whatever occurred took place. 3 more fleets sent to investigate the disappearance also vanished in the same mysterious manner, prompting emergency sessions among Council leadership who demanded explanations from their military commanders and scientific advisors about what could possibly eliminate entire armadas without leaving any evidence behind them. Last transmission from the 4th Fleet showed something impossible appearing on their screens. Just before contact was lost forever with all hands aboard, those vessels, a human ship, materialized from nowhere, surrounded by darkness that moved independently of any light source present. In that region of space and wrapped around the hull was a creature that should not exist according to modern understanding of biology and physics, taught in universities across every Council member. World scientists struggled to explain what they were seeing in the fragmentary data recovered from automated buoys positioned throughout that sector for communication relay purposes and emergency backup systems. One researcher finally admitted they were witnessing void navigation, which required either technology her species had abandoned thousands of years ago as too dangerous for practical use, or the assistance of a creature from ancient legends that most modern beings dismissed as fictional stories told to children's counselor. Math, who was among the oldest individuals serving in the Council chambers, reminded everyone present that he had warned them about rushing to judge humanity without proper investigation into their historical records and potential connections to powers that existed before most current civilizations even developed spaceflight capabilities. Ambassador Krell tried to defend his position by claiming humans had no contact with void-capable species in their recent history, but Wrath cut him off sharply and pointed out that recent only covered the last 1,000 years and completely ignored what might have happened before. Humans joined the galactic community officially in the Sol system, Kate. Morrison watched her crew perform maneuvers that would have killed everyone aboard using conventional navigation methods, but with Lyra and Ashenwing teaching them how to perceive reality differently, they accomplished the impossible routinely. Now Lieutenant Maya Chen served as navigator and interfaced directly with Ashenwing consciousness, using equipment designed specifically for this purpose by engineers working around the clock to adapt human technology to work alongside dragon abilities that operated on principles beyond current scientific understanding. Lyra stood beside Kate on the bridge, remaining calm and composed while chaos erupted around them as the ship prepared to slip into void space where normal physics did not apply and distance became meaningless for those who knew how to navigate properly through those dangerous regions. The vessel shuddered violently as it transitioned between dimensions, and reality twisted in ways that made unprepared crew members feel sick and disoriented until Asian Wing presence in their minds steadied them and protected their sanity from the maddening influence of void space exposure through the observation Windows. Normal space disappeared, completely replaced by swirling colors and impossible geometries where stars existed at angles that should not be possible, and light moved in patterns that defied all known laws of physics. Maya announced their emergence coordinates, and the ship punched back into normal space directly above a Council supply depot that supported enforcement fleets operating in multiple sectors throughout this region of the Laxish. A shreem released a stream of fire that did not burn in the traditional sense, but rather unmade things. By reducing them to component atoms through some process that human scientists desperately wanted to study and understand, but had no equipment capable of measuring or analyzing properly, Kate broadcast a message on all council frequencies informing them that humanity was returning every captured ship with crews unharmed and confined to escape pods distributed across nearby systems, where they could be recovered. She explained that the banishment was over not because the council lifted it, but because humans rejected it completely and would not accept judgment from beings who inherited power rather than earning it through their own efforts and achievements. The council assembled their largest fleet ever seen in modern galactic history, with 300 ships drawn from 17 different member species, bringing weapons capable of destroying entire planets and reality anchors designed to prevent void travel in combat zones. They arrived at the edge of the Sol system expecting to find humans cowering behind whatever defenses they had managed to construct during the brief time since banishment began, but instead they discovered something that changed everything they thought they knew about humanity and their capabilities. The quantum barrier was gone, completely dismantled from within, using void space manipulation techniques that made council scientists weep in frustration because they could not understand how it was accomplished without triggering automatic defense systems. Built into the barrier itself, in place of the barrier floated thousands of human vessels in perfect formation, from massive carriers to small courier ships, all bearing marks of Ashenwing teaching visible as shadows that moved wrong, and holes that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. The center of the formation hung the human flagship with Ashenwing coiled around it, but the dragon had grown, or perhaps revealed its true size, until it dwarfed even the largest council, now dreadnoughts by comparison, making them look like toys beside a living mountain admiral. Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge with Lyra and Kate, watching the council armada approach with expressions of calm confidence that comes from knowing victory is already assured, regardless of what happens next. Council sent a demand for immediate surrender, and Lisa denied it flatly, then ordered communications to open a channel so she could make their position clear to everyone listening across multiple star systems monitoring this confrontation. High Counselor Vex appeared in the holographic display, surrounded by other council leaders whose faces showed various expressions of anger and concern about the situation developing before them. He began speaking with authority developed over thousands of years, ruling the galactic core and commanding respect from countless species across known space. But Lyra interrupted him before he could finish his prepared speech. She stepped into view, and the effect on the council chamber was immediate, as ancient species that never showed fear suddenly recoiled from their screens, and advisors scrambled to confirm what they were seeing. Lyra introduced herself and explained she had walked among stars since before their ancestors, learned to dream, and had witnessed empires rise and fall, while species like theirs grew proud in their power, believing age granted wisdom. Automatically she told them about humanity saving her 3,000 years ago. She was alone and hunted, asking nothing in return, just helping because help was needed, and that kind of compassion was rare among beings who calculated everything based on profit and political advantages. Wing added its voice to hers, speaking in a language that bypassed words completely and touched the oldest parts of consciousness, directly making every listener understand the message being conveyed about fear and change and the difference between imposed peace and true harmony. Kate stepped forward and told the council they did not want war, but would not accept banishment for being inconvenient to established powers who preferred stability over growth and innovation. The human fleet began changing formation into a massive spiral visible from light years away, and as they moved, they released cargo containers filled with supplies and technology gifts freely given to border worlds and struggling colonies that suffered under council bureaucracy and indifference. Kate offered the council a choice between fighting until only survivors remained with no real victors, or accepting humanity as equals, contributing their different perspective and innovative approaches to galactic civilization. Vex asked what would happen if they refused, and Lyra explained calmly that humans would leave and go further into unexplored space, building new civilizations and making new alliances, until eventually They became too powerful to ignore or contain, she said, in 1,000 years council descendants would wonder why their ancestors rejected willing partners and chose to create enemies. Instead, through fear and short-sighted thinking, silence fell across both locations as beings who had not felt uncertain in centuries faced a decision they never anticipated having to make between adapting to change or becoming irrelevant in the grand scheme of galactic development. 3 days later, the Council reconvened and voted to grant humanity full membership with equal status and rights, ending the banishment officially, while claiming it had been a test all along to save face. Politically, Kate did not care about their justifications, only that human ships could sail freely among stars again, and the future stretched before them, filled with possibilities waiting to be explored. Lyra decided to stay with humanity for a while, teaching them secrets of void navigation and sharing knowledge accumulated over millennia of experience traveling between dimensions and Earth. People looked up at the sky, seeing not a prison anymore, but a promise that they had been judged and had demanded to be seen as equals, refusing to accept unjust treatment from those who believed age alone granted authority. Humanity had left without regret when banished and returned without apologies, bringing ancient allies and proving that determination combined with unexpected friendships could change the galaxy forever.